Bide ye come to me dark shores, bound behind waves of salient green. Gods here walk, our lands destroyed. A plea for life we pay in blood. Bended knee we bow on moors. Hunt again, our clans war on. Flee ye thralls and ne'er return. Mage ye sort your valor wrought. What worth find ye here in ice, where wrecks take on a wild shape? No hearth can melt, no forge e'er burn the god-touched land beyond these shores.
And we're here. Yay! So sorry about all the technical difficulties, everybody. Let me pull up all the chats so I can find them. So proud of you. Worked so hard for this. Hey, Ben! I like to think so. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to hang out with me today. And my amazing narrator, Aaron. Aaron, say hello to everyone. Did I mute you?
Hello, everybody. I muted myself in the call. Hello.
Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me tonight. I know today is a holiday over there, and that it is about 5 o'clock at night. So you guys are probably getting ready to do really cool stuff.
The barbecue is going to be cracked open in about an hour, and then fireworks go off in about an hour and a half to 2 hours from that.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. It's actually becoming more of a holiday over here as well, you know, because of the comic book and stuff. But the more we get to share and things like that, I think the better.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone. So thank you for coming to hang out. We have a few viewers in the chat. That means so much to me. Thank you for coming and celebrating the release of my third book in the series and my third book this year, which we'll discuss later, was a very bad financial decision. This is, as I said, Aaron. He has narrated all my Runar books for me and has also done the short story that actually is our giveaway today. So make sure you are participating in that. It hasn't opened yet. You'll know when it opens because it'll say it in the chat. Let's see, I was going to talk about how we met. Oh, on ACX is where I found him. So ACX, for those who don't know, is the backside of Audible, technically, which is owned by Amazon. It's Amazon's audiobook company distribution. And when, let's see, I guess it was probably 2 years ago now, when I auditioned for the Trial of Two. I actually got a handful of auditions, way more than I expected, since it was my first time on ACX and I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I think, Aaron, you were my 5th audition on there. And I had 3 or so more afterwards, but when I heard you read, and you were the only one who did all the scenes, no one else did all the scenes that I had posted. When I heard that, I just deleted the rest of them, and I was like, oh God, please let this guy say yes, because I just deleted everyone else. And then we just basically went from there, and I thought that you had like the most perfect epic fantasy sounding voice. I've listened to a lot of audiobooks. And in fact, I was so happy. I literally sent your soundbite to like my brothers on my Discord. I sent it to my friends. I was like, oh my gosh, listen to this guy. But you've been super great to work with. I know that I'm not easy to work with. You can ask any of my supervisors, any of my colleagues. So I appreciate your professionalism that you've had as we've tried to work, and as my life has exploded and fallen to pieces and your life has shifted. The fact that you've been willing to work with me through all of this stuff has simply been amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into audiobook narration, books, stories, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So you mentioned actually that I was the only narrator that read all of the scenes. Um, since auditioning for your book, I've joined communities and gotten to know other narrators. And there's one rule that is pretty much absolutely basic amongst all of the narrators is your audition tape should not be longer than 5 minutes,
Hmm.
and once you've done it, forget about it and move on. Um, so I'm glad that everyone else followed that rule and didn't do all of the scenes, didn't do more than a 5 minute snippet, and I happened to just do them all so that you decided on me. Um, so yeah, my story. Um, I've bounced around from job to job, career paths quite a bit. I went to university and got a certificate of higher education in aerospace engineering.
Oh, no way.
Um, I left that university after 2 years to switch to do game design, and I jumped in and did some. After a couple of years worth of training, I jumped into the video games industry. In the interim, there, I was doing security work, nightclub security,
Oh, wow.
concierge security, um, all sorts, sewage plant security, just all sorts of jobs. Um, and then I finally managed to land a game design position. Did that for about 6 years when someone mentioned to me online. I was playing some games of D&D online, and someone mentioned to me that they liked my voice and they could listen to me speak all day. A couple of people mentioned I should be. They'd like to. Uh, could they just ask me to come and read to them? And I was like, well, that's very nice of you to say that. Um, I've told this story and I've mentioned this before. I tried to impress someone, a young lady, by uh, reading a chapter of Harry Potter to her every night as she fell asleep, which she absolutely loved, but it didn't work in my favor to impressing her into a date or anything like that. But from that, I realized just how much I enjoyed reading um, and narrating. And so when someone else mentioned, "Hey, you should be an audiobook narrator," I just Googled how to become an audiobook narrator, and that's where I found the ACX website, acx.com. It's different. Like it's a lot harder to be successful on ACX now versus when I started, because when I signed up for, oh, I should mention ACX is Amazon's and Audible's distribution service. You can go with other publishers,
Mhm.
and other publishers pay you better, um, but but it's hard to get it onto their books. ACX, you don't need any prior experiences. You just need some samples to put on the website, and then you just start auditioning for books. So anyone can be. So when I signed up, the ACX website had 2,500 projects live and open for audition, and about 250 to 300,000 registered narrators. So I was one of 300,000 narrators on that website auditioning for 2,500 books. Now, if you look at the details, there's still about 2,000 to 2,500 books open for audition at any given time, but the number has now skyrocketed to over 1 million registered narrators on ACX. And so when I audition for a project now, I'm auditioning amongst hundreds and thousands of other auditions. And so if I don't get in there within the first couple, like you say, I was number 5 on your the fifth audition, if I don't get there in the first few and impress with that first section, I'm going to get lost amongst a sea of audition tapes, because authors don't want to sit through thousands of 5 minute long video audio tapes. They'll listen until they find a voice that they like enough to give the contract. And I've been lucky enough to do a lot. So that was how I got into audiobook narration.
I feel that because, okay, I just did the math. On Amazon, every year there's over 2 billion books released through their Kindle. And yeah, it does get disheartening. I've gone through ACX, I've done narration through there, and even, oh gosh, forgot about that. Thank you for the sub. It's even harder to find, well, I feel like it, and I could be being sexist, but I feel like it's harder to find female narrators that pay, because everyone who needs a female narrator puts out those romance books, like, one a month. And, they're not going to pay a narrator for that when they're just like churning out the content. And so it's a very weird market, I think, to try and get into when you're trying to do serious stuff and stuff that's going to last, and, not flavor of the month kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. What I will say has helped a lot of female narrators, because yes, it is absolutely, there is a need for more good quality female narrators, and there are a lot of incredible female narrators out there that just don't get found. TikTok has been doing wonders for that. At least once a month, there is a femme narrator takeover day where, within the book talk community on TikTok, all male narrators don't put out any videos, and the book talk narration section is just filled with incredibly skilled female narrators.
Wow.
Putting up their things, doing joint live services, and so TikTok has been a great way. And I found authors through searching through TikTok and noticing a comment on an author's page saying, "Hey, is this available for audiobook?" And you'll see the author says, "I've thought about it, but I don't know where to start."
Mm-hmm.
Well, at that point, I send a message to that author saying, "Hey, I know exactly where to start, and it's with me." Uh, and from doing that, I got my best-selling audiobook. So
Very
while
cool.
ACX was great for me, TikTok and social media is becoming a better place for that now.
Yeah, I have been told a lot to get on TikTok, and especially with um, wanting to put out YA books, like young adult books. They're like, you need to get on TikTok. And I don't think young adults are reading young adult books, but a lot of people who read young adult books are on TikTok. And I feel like I'm not good with that kind of thing. I don't like being in my videos, and it's the whole thing. But I feel like it's one of those social media platforms that I'm just going to have to grit my teeth, bear it, and get on there if I want to do, this kind of thing seriously and long term as well. I'm going to turn us now to the questions that I
Okay.
got. And number one for you, because I always have people ask, well, this is only the second time I have people ask my narrators questions. How long have you been narrating?
I have been my first audiobook was March, April of the year before lockdown. So I want to say that was 2018, I think, or 2019. The years have
Mm.
flown by, but I know it was almost exactly a year before COVID and the lockdowns began. is when I got started in audiobook narration.
I'm going to jump to one of the other questions, which I think was what number of project was the Trial of Two, the first one that we did?
So that was, I believe it was 16 or 17. It was around there. It was very early days for me. And I now that I'm doing the third book and I have to match voices to some of the characters from the first book, I listen back, and I don't tend to listen back to my old projects, but purely because of this situation, I listen back to the first one and realize, oh, my setup is so much better now, and I'm so much better now. I could do this so much better now, years later. But you can't just keep redoing the same project. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so it was one of my earliest projects.
Well, everyone thinks it's great, and I think it's great. So you don't have to worry about that. Do you do any other voice work, like games or other media?
It is very hard to get into the voiceover side of things. And so I've done a few small projects, a few things here and there. Um, Through meeting authors and being connected to other things, I've done some voiceover for book trailers.
Mm.
I've done a few small snippets for video games, um, but not a lot. Not really much that many people would have ever seen. Like I can't. I wish I could tell you go and play this video game because it's my voice, but I can't.
That's fair enough. One day, though, one day.
One day.
Kind of.
Well, actually, that being said, on this, so I do audiobook narration. I just recently started a video game company with a friend of mine, and I will be doing all of the voice for that. So fingers crossed that game will become a bestseller, and everyone will hear my voice through that.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. I love entrepreneurship, especially when it comes to creativity. So kind of going off what you were saying before, question is, have you gathered your hardware for recording over the years, or did you get it all at once? I hear this a lot because people, they'll ask me, they're like, well, I don't have $2,000 to blow on recording hardware. And it's like, oh, well, I've gathered it over 2 or 3 years. So,
Yeah, it's little by little. With this, with how difficult it is to get involved, um, it's a very careful balance between um, how much you're willing to spend to get good enough to be able to get in, and then how much you're willing to spend to be the best quality. But it's just little by little. My first audiobook was using a very um, cheap microphone. Um, and in order to get the sound quality good, I had to do a lot of blankets against the wall, blanket fort around me, pillows everywhere to make sure that the sound quality was good.
yes.
But then as I got more projects and as I got more paying projects, because I've done lots of audiobooks that were royalty share and I've got no royalties from them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Once I got more paying work, I put a little bit aside every time to be able to dedicate to my next improvement. So, uh, first it was a better microphone, so I didn't need to do so much um, sound treatment,
Mm-hmm.
and then slowly improving the setup around that. Now I have um, uh, producer quality audio blankets creating a little um, studio for me. I have a Blue Yeti mic, which is not a very high level mic, but a very good mid tier. It was about $250, I think.
That's what I'm using right
For the
now.
Blue Yeti. And because it's a good quality microphone, um, it it makes up for some of the other issues that I might have, but I still need to put in a lot of effort into cleaning up the audio
Mm-hmm.
afterwards.
Yes, definitely, for sure. I recently discovered I did an audiobook this summer, and my neighbor's air conditioning unit is right outside my window, and no amount of insulation has been able to tune that out. So that was a very difficult book to edit and to get it clean. So how many books have you narrated now?
Now it is 158 books to date in the 3 and a bit years that I've been doing it.
Wow, awesome.
A
Um,
lot of those have been short stories. Um, I
okay.
just like I've made a good friendship connection with you. I try to make sure I have similar relationships with all of the authors that I work with, and there's one author that is constantly throwing out short stories of zombie apocalypse stuff. So
Ah,
uh,
I have a couple of
that
those.
is a large chunk. Yeah, it's a big chunk of the 158.
Awesome. Dang, that's amazing. I remember it feels like not too long ago where you were celebrating 100, so that's awesome. How many genres have you narrated and which is your favorite?
So I've done fantasy, and in fantasy, I've done like high fantasy and then science fantasy. Um, I've done non-fiction. In non-fiction, I've done um, a medical textbook that was the top 300 drugs list and how to memorize them. Um, I've done some religious books, some self-help and scriptural guidance books, some true crime novels,
Nice.
uh, serial killer, true crime stuff, uh, and romance, and a kid story, child story. So also a lot of genres. Um, my favorites to narrate are are fantasy because you've got all the different characters that you can bring to life. Uh, but weirdly, my favorites to read are horror. I haven't done many horrors. I think I've done
Mm,
two spooky stories narrating wise, but they're my favorite to read. But to narrate, it's fantasy. Uh, whilst also on the opposite side, uh, the ones that sell the most tend to be the romance ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. I always worry about approaching narrators about romance books because some people, and I read it somewhere in a narrator community about like be careful of doing romance books because you know your name's gonna be tied to that forever, and so yeah, it's that's interesting.
Yeah. Looking back, I probably should have used a pseudonym for the
Mm.
romance books that I've done. Um, for a number of reasons. One is when telling my family, my parents, uh, yeah, I've got 150 audiobooks on Audible. Just search for Aaron Smith. Um, I do have to say there are some by a different Aaron Smith. Uh, the those really intense romance books, but um, but I've always taken the view that if I stand behind the quality of work that I do, I'm happy for my name to be upon it. While adversely, I do know that there are authors out there. Sorry if you can hear fireworks. Uh, there are authors out there that don't want their books connected to a narrator that has also done
Mm.
erotica content.
Mm. Oh yeah, okay, I didn't think of that one. Yeah, you're right. Interesting. Let's see. We covered that one a little bit. Oh, okay. Now that you've done 3 of my books and a short story, Do you have a favorite one?
I have to say it's the one that I'm doing right now, actually. Uh,
Oh, yay.
I would say, yeah, this one's my favorite. It is the longest, it is the biggest project.
Yes.
Uh, and I think 18 hours, because it's going to be about an 18-hour finished project. I haven't done many that are that long, uh,
Oof.
3 or 4. Um,
Even those
but
political books?
thankfully, even the political books, they're usually about 4 or 5 hours long. Uh, a biography of Jeffrey Dahmer was only 4 hours.
Wow.
Uh, but yeah, so this one that I'm doing mostly because I enjoy this kind of setting, a Scottish Norse themed book. Um, some of my favorite voices can be used in this
Hmm.
book very well. And so this is the one that I'm enjoying the most.
Awesome. I like it a lot too. Um, every time I ask readers, though, they all love Sojourn, but I think it's because of the Asiatic setting. I think they like that.
Mhm.
Um, oh, okay. This one is mine. What is it about books and video games that you like?
To me, it's the story. Um, I um, my family know that I have absolutely no interest in movies and TV shows that are, in my opinion, too real.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm I can't sit through a drama uh, because it's watching people's everyday life. I watch movies, I read books, I play video games like so many other people as a way to stretch my imagination and to as a form of escapism, really to see what else is out there, to imagine what it would be like to do something different. And so that's what I love about video games and books that I've done because I can't be a monster hunter in the realm of Kerwen. Um, but I, for a moment, for a couple of hours a day, I get to feel like I am. And uh, I'm one of the narrators that very much feels the emotions of the characters that I'm
Mm-hmm.
narrating. And so while I'm narrating Sarek going through these hunts, I feel that energy and that emotion, and that's what I enjoy.
Oh, awesome. And thank you for using my book as an example.
Yeah.
We have an audience question. She wants to know who is your favorite character in my books so far?
Oh, um, I'm always partial to a good villain. So, though we haven't seen him too much, uh, I have to say Shara is actually one of my favorite characters in the book. Um, Partly because he is the villain, but also um, he's now taken a step in, especially with Sojourn and now with the next book, he seems to have taken a step into being the overarching, the background villain that we don't know what he's doing right now. He could be doing all sorts, um, but but him. So Shara is my favorite. Um, yeah.
I appreciate that because I like him too, and I love my villains. Always villains on my covers. The villain of the book goes on the cover. And my brother actually told me once. Um, it was during one of my other streams, and someone in the chat was talking about how they liked Shirar, and they mentioned that he was so charismatic. And I was like, I don't think of him as charismatic. In my head, he's so slimy. And um, but then I realized that they were listening to the audiobook. They hadn't read the book, and I was like, oh yes, that's because Aaron makes him so good. The voice you do for him is just so perfect. It's that perfect timbre, kind of like a dangerous tenor sound. I don't know. But yeah, I
Yeah.
love that people like him.
Yeah, I when I s- when I was narrating him for the first book, I had in my mind this idea of this is someone um, that sees Sarek as a collector's piece,
Mhm.
more or less. That's the viewpoint he has, and so he's looking down and speaking down to something that he owns, that he doesn't even think of as competition or a threat at all, but something that is curious that he wants to learn a bit more about, and so an intellectual, manipulative, but also uh, it's his collection, so that's where the suaveness, I guess, comes from.
Then we have another one, favorite side character.
Favorite side character. Um, well, now that he's back, and I
No.
apologize if I shouldn't say, um, Victon.
No. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Love a good bard. As a side character, a bard is a fantastic side character to have.
I need to do a whole essay or something called Everybody Loves Victon, cuz everybody loves Victon.
Mhm.
And I think it was something um one of my brothers who's in the chat told me actually. He said something offhand about Victon, and it gave me this idea for a whole side plot for him. And the more I thought about it over the last couple of years, the more I liked it. And then the more I write and I see people like him, I'm like, fine, he can stay. I'll put him in again. But he's got to do something for the story. So hopefully there are some things in book 3 that people can pick up on. And he'll be around for books 4 and 5 due to popular demand. I did not care for him um,
No.
when I first wrote him. He was there to lighten the mood
Mhm.
because I've been told they're very dark and depressing. And so every Sherlock needs their Watson, and so that was the point of him in that first
Mhm.
book. And then everyone loved him, and then they were sad he was gone in Sojourn, so I decided he could come back for book 3.
I can imagine, and this is not me suggesting you need to write this, but I can imagine a short story told from Victon's perspective with strikeouts or comments and highlights from Sarek saying, well, this probably never happened. That's probably not true. He's embellishing here.
Most likely. Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. I should do a short story for him. I plan on putting together an anthology of all the short stories I've written so far, which are only 3, but only one of them is out in the world. But yeah, that might be one we put in there. That would be a good center story for that. Um, that's a good idea, says the chat. And they say, I knew it when you said Victim was your favorite side character. He's everyone's favorite side character. Let's see. Do I have any more questions? I don't think. Anyone else in the chat have any questions for Aaron before I let him go and enjoy, what do you guys call it? Is it Bonfire Day?
It's Bonfire Night.
Bonfire Night.
Uh, the day we celebrate the failed attempt at destroying Parliament. Um, Traditionally, it just involves us going to a field that someone's built a massive fire on
Mm-hmm.
and launching some fireworks.
Sounds like fun to me. Okay, we have a couple more. Oh, yes, they say, oh yeah, happy 5th of November.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Does Aaron do this for a living full time?
Yes and no. So I do. I actually, strictly speaking, technically have two full-time jobs, or at least I put in the hours for two full-time jobs at this point. I do spend full-time doing audiobook work in my evenings, um, and
Yep.
I was doing it full-time, just audiobooks, up until recently, uh, because I recently got engaged and I need to save up for a wedding and moving to America to be able to live with my fiance. And so right now I do a second job full time as well. That is game design and game development. Uh, but but I do enough audiobook work to technically do it for a living.
Awesome. Yep. I feel that. I sat down and did the math once to figure out how much time I spend doing freelance work. Um, and it was disheartening at first because it's a full-time job. And I realized, I'm working like 80 hours a week, and that's just bizarre. Um,
Yeah.
but we do what we do because we love it. There was one more, and I lost it. Last one. Oh, what is the genre you dislike reading the most?
Um, Dislike reading the most. It's hard for me to say, obviously, because it could negatively affect any
Ah.
potential future work that I do. Um, but uh, so I don't dislike any particular genre. I find more fun doing uh, fantasy stories. The ones that are the least fun to do um, are purely informative, like the textbooks that I've done.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
That's fair.
where there isn't a story and it's just me talking. If there is a story to go in it, then I absolutely enjoy it. Um, I will say, so I don't have an least favorite genre, but um, I have done books and I've turned down books that that are great stories, and you can tell that the author has put a lot of effort into the book, but uh, the manuscript, the book isn't quite ready. Uh, Manuscript errors all over the place, continuity errors, issues with the story in that aspect. So you can see the book that is almost there. If they just take a little bit extra time to do it, then it'll be ready for audiobook narration. Um, I don't enjoy doing the audiobooks for those that don't feel finished because it doesn't feel like a finished product.
Right. Yes, I understand that as well. That's a good point. All right. Like reading manuals, says the chat. Yes. Well, no one likes reading textbooks in the first place.
Mm.
All right. With that, um, you are free to hop off if you would like. Have fun tonight. Be safe.
Thank
And
you.
I will probably talk to you in a couple days.
Yep, I'm almost there with your book. I'm so sorry it's taking so long, but I'm almost there.
It's my fault. When I realized the pressure I put on my beta readers to get that thing read in a month, because normally my books can be read in a month, but I didn't realize this one was 60,000 words longer than the other one. And they were like, I can't get it done. And I was like, well, okay, bummer. So I gave them more time. And then I turned it in my editor, and she was like, I can't get this edited in a month. And so it went on. And I realized the reason it was so long was because there was 2 extra point of views, and there's world building in every book, and that just takes so much time. And so I realized next Runer book, probably not coming out in November, probably not coming out till January a year from next year, because it's also turning into a very long book.
But those that are listening, so the book is released now, right?
Yes, it is on ebook and paperback and hardback pretty much everywhere.
Okay. Definitely everyone go out and get a copy. Two reasons. One, we love our author and she does a great job, and the little bit that you do to buy her book helps her pay bills. Two, it is actually a really good story. So I really recommend. I've done 158 stories. This is one of the best written stories that I've done. So I
Oh.
really do highly recommend that everyone gets a copy. And then in a month or so, when the audiobook is out, get the audiobook and read whilst listening. I will mention this to before I step away, and I hope it's okay me taking this moment. Um, I uh, I don't remember um, much about um, my childhood, and I don't remember much about reading as a kid. Um, I remember being told and being picked on as a kid for breathing between every word that I say. I would one word and breathe between everything, and I would take time to think about every word that I was saying. Um, but one of the most formative moments in my childhood that has helped me narrate the way that I narrate now is I remember as a teen reading a book and listening to it at the same time. That helped me to learn how to read a book as if it was a performance and a play. Now, when I read a book, in my mind, I'm narrating. I put
Mhm.
voices to the characters. I imagine the world in 3D, like it's fully alive within my head while I'm reading, because I started out and I got used to reading whilst listening to an audiobook. So I really recommend people doing that.
That seems to be the only way I can get by nowadays. And I don't know if it's just because my attention span has shrunk up, but, and it's just one of my favorite things to do. I love to see the words on the page, but I love the auditory as well. And so, yeah, I always, if a book doesn't have an audiobook, I have a very hard time reading it unless it's Sherlock Holmes. Um, but that's how I always do it. So I always spend so much money on books because I have to buy the paperback and then I have to buy the audiobook, and so but yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for taking time to hang out with us and answer questions, and have fun tonight.
Will do. Bye.
Oh my goodness, how do I turn that off? Oh, nope, I turned myself off. I am super bad at navigating this thing. There we go. Ha ha ha. I win. Best advice for parents of reluctant readers. I totally agree. Oh my gosh, it's Aranel. I know you from the other stream. Um, yes, best advice for reluctant readers. I agree. I always tell people that, and that's one of the reasons I really, really wanted audiobooks is because that's how I read, and that's how so many people I know read. Um, that if it wasn't out there, I would have sold no books. Um, all of my books are audiobooks right now. Um, and so I'm getting ready to actually put a book out in the spring that won't have an audiobook yet. It will eventually. But I've sold 82 copies of the first book in this series, the audiobook copies, and I have sold like 4 copies of print and ebook combined, I think. So if I didn't have those audiobooks and didn't have that option to offer people for that accessibility, like I wouldn't have sold hardly any. And I mean, that's not a lot. Which is why at one point Aaron offered to do royalty share for my books, and I said no, because you will make no money, and I'm asking you to do like 200 hours of work. So I insist on paying my artists, my narrators, my editors. because I know how it feels to do a ton of work and not get paid, which seems to be the tune for my freelance right now. But yeah, the audiobooks are just so vital and so necessary. And I know when I was getting my creative writing degree, ebooks were looked down upon, so audiobooks were definitely looked down upon. And I felt so bad because I had a couple favorite audiobook narrators. Was it Jim Dale who did the American Harry Potter? He was so good that I loved him. I thought he was good, and that, you know, was the first time I thought, man, that's a really good narrator. Yes. And then who did the narration in Focus on the Family's Narnia, Chronicles of Narnia? But that narrator, I don't think I ever knew his name. But he was so good and so energetic and just had the perfect voice for the youthful energy that is Narnia. The Shakespeare guy? Is that really his name? But I opened and closed Twitch 4 times to watch ads for you. Oh my gosh, Sky. So the guy from Henry V. Oh, no. He was Aslan. Kenneth Branagh was Aslan. No, that was David Suchet, who was also amazing. Was it Kenneth Branagh? Really? I'd have to Google. That's insane. I'm assuming that's the guy you mean from Henry V, because he's, oh, the Shakespeare guy. Yeah, he's the Shakespeare guy. He did Much Ado and so many other ones. All right, let me stay on topic here because I have to stay on time as well. Let's see. All right, we're letting him go. Yes, longest book I have ever written. I guess the longest book he's ever narrated, which it does. It makes me feel terrible that I didn't allot enough time for everyone during this project. Who would have thought that 62,000 words more took more time? Not me. I'm terrible at math. So let's see. Oh, yay, you received 10 tickets as well. Thank you for participating in the giveaway, by the way. I've already given away 2. I wanted to give away a ton, but I kept forgetting to close it and open it back up while Aaron and I were talking. So book 3, as Aaron said, takes place on Caerwen, which is where the white people live on the map. There's someone told me something about there's not a lot of white people, and then when I started writing book 3, I made a meme about releasing the white people, and it was like naked Scots running into battle. So I've had a lot of fun doing the research for that, the just absolute mishmash of cultures and creatures that come up in this book. There's so many monsters, and I love all of them. There's 2 or 3 that I love the most out of all of them that appear in this book. Lots, just so much monsters, tentacles, fangs, and stuff going on in this book. So this one, I know people haven't read it yet, but I want to talk a little bit about it. The point of this one and having 4 point of view characters was to start building the characters that are going to have more of an impact in books 4 and 5. Do I still have a full map of my world? I do. It's in my merch store, which I can find the link for here really quick as I'm talking. The canvas one should be the one you're thinking of. But yeah, I had so many characters to build up for the last books that I needed them to have their own time in this book, and just needed to see things from their perspective, hear their thoughts. That should be the link. That should work. That needed rounded out before we got to these ending bits. I'm actually wondering how long book 4 is going to be. It's probably going to be long, and then book 5 is probably going to be about as long as book 1, so it's going to be significantly shorter than these middle ones. But that's fine. It works out perfectly. I've been trying to work with this literary device called a chiasm, and I forget how it's spelled. It's like a Greek or a Hebrew word, but it's a Middle Eastern literary device that means the end is the same as the beginning. So things escalate or start out one way and they escalate, but then they come back to where they were at the beginning, or some things are the same at the end as they were at the beginning. And so that I think that's something fun that I have tried to string along throughout my books. And so once you know that, you can kind of start guessing and seeing what's going to happen in the books coming up. Let's see. Lore, plot. I guess I can't talk about the plot because some people haven't finished book 2. But that's okay. Things happen in that book that really need to be taken care of in this book. Something I like about this 3rd book is the escalation. I'm a big fan of escalating your stories, character arcs, plot tension, just things getting bigger and bigger. And if you start so big, then you have nowhere to go. Which is why the first book I marketed as Sword and Sorcery, or Sword and Sandal, whatever you want to call it. Very Robert E. Howard, because it was very small, the stakes were very low, everything was very contained, kind of, to this one area and these very few people. And now it's growing and expanding, and things are going to end up enveloping the whole map. In what's gonna go down, as things escalate. So in this book, we bring in the literal gods of the world. They're there to not necessarily to show how big this thing can escalate, but just to kind of show how this world is put together. And I don't think I have it on my website on the Runer page. But I meant to say it at one point, but like, this world is legit a flat world on the back of a giant turtle. It's I think that's a Thai or maybe Indian myth. But because of that, the way the suns and the moon act in this book, or that's the reason why the suns and the moon in this book act like the way they do. It's not necessary for you to know that. It's just cool and mysterious in the book, but now you know this is a flat world on the back of a turtle. And it makes sense why it's a turtle when you read the books, or why it's an animal. Let's see, I don't want to talk about too much else. I did have to come up with a whole magic system for the necromancers, whole new system. I do world building, cultural building, history building, religion building, and magic system building, it feels like, in every single book of this. It's turtles all the way down. It's true. It's turtles just all the way down. All turtles all the time. Why is this chat not up here? There we go. Nope. Oh, because I didn't lock it. There we go. There's the chat. Yes, it's all turtles all the way down. Let's do our winner, a sky. But yeah, that's fun. But yeah, a whole new magic system for the necromancers, coming up with the 5 spells of necromancy, coming up with the how one progresses through the levels of necromancer. There are technically only 2 levels, but there are 3 if you're ambitious enough, which is what goes on in this book. Okay, let's see. We got that done. Nice. Good job. I mentioned earlier how putting out 3 books this year was an extremely bad financial decision, which I paid for. All right. With that, I am going to start transitioning out unless anyone has any questions or comments or etc. The book was released today. I got a notification on my Kindle because, of course, I pre-order my own book, telling me that the book was out. So that was a great thing to wake up to this morning. Made me so happy. It is available everywhere, including Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, I forget where else. And the audiobook will be out probably not until December, because it's my fault. It's all my fault. It's 100% my fault for that book not getting out on time. Added to your Kindle already. Thank you, Aranel. I appreciate that. I hope you enjoy it. And if you subscribe to Audible and you have credits, I hope you grab that as well, because I know you're friends of Aaron. That's where I know you from, is his Twitch. Because he does such a great job. My books, I know they're so difficult for him because there's no less than 5 different accents in each book, and just age range of characters are all over. I have super old people, really young people, animal people, and just the voices that he does are so great. One of my favorite voices, actually, speaking of old animal people, is in Sojourn, the second book, where there is a monkey monk, like a monkey who's a monk. I realize that makes my book sound silly, but they're very serious. And yes, monkey. Yes, the monkey. Tao Shin, I think his name was. And he does the perfect voice for an old monkey that's a monk. Like, I didn't even have to describe it to him or like tell him how to do it. He just did such a good job. And when I heard him, because I think the character comes in the very first chapter, I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds exactly like him. So it was incredible. That happens every once in a while. It's just like, that's it. Oh my gosh. Like, it's the most bizarre voice you could ever ask someone to do. And there it is. He did it so great. You tried so hard to win. I saw. I thought you were going to win because in the second one, it was just you and Color Master, and you had put in 10 and she put in like 2 or 1 and she won. That's okay. I'll give you one anyway. Because I need that one. That one needs to come out and people need to listen to that. You don't have to listen to it or read it before reading the third book, but it would add flavor, and we love flavor. All right, I'm going to start wrapping up now. Before you go, I have a trailer for you guys to watch for my next upcoming book. And fun fact, it's not coming out in May of 2023. It is coming out in April of 2023. The end of April, though. You don't roll initiative with a D20? Yes, you do. Yes, huh? And you know what? It's the only stock footage I could find that was good. In that system? Well, you don't know what game they play. Yes, massive rewrites happening on that one. Working on it for National Novel Writing Month. It was the first book that I had traditionally published. And it's very bad. Reading it now. Oh, you use Princess Phasma. Reading it now, everything in it is cringe. It's absolutely unbearable. I die every morning. I work on it. But going to fix it up, make it better, leaving some of the cringe because it needs to stay, because that's how I felt as a 22-year-old that wrote that story. But, you know, some of those things need to stay. But I'm very excited for that one. But of course, I'm more excited for my Runer books right now. I hope you all pick it up. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for spending your time today with me. Let me check the chat one more time. Awesome. We are good to go. Oh, that's right. I wrote myself a reminder of the holidays coming up. If you know someone who likes dark fantasy books or audiobooks, my books would be a great gift. Word of mouth is the best way to spread the word. In-person stuff, advertising on social medias is basically like shouting into the void. So if you like something, tell someone you like it, recommend that they get it. The audiobooks are on so many subscription-based programs that if they pay for that subscription, like Scribed or Chirp or whatever, or Storytel, those things, like, they're already on there. So, you know, the people are already paying for them if they're paying for their subscription. Whoops, that's a lie, Nightbot. We're not doing that anymore. So yeah, word of mouth is the best. If you know of an event in your area that would not frown upon hosting local authors, you can also shoot me a message at my email, any of my social medias, to let me know, because I want to do a lot of traveling this coming year to promote my books in person, because I feel like the old-fashioned way is the best way. And with that, I'm going to let everyone go. Thank you again. I know your time is precious, and I appreciate every minute that you spend with me. We could call it lousting. Yeah, it sounds not good. To those who won books, everyone won their book, right? I closed out that last giveaway. Yes, okay, we're good to go. Don't forget to email me. If you don't email me, chances of you getting your code for the free audiobook are extremely slim. So shoot me an email, and everyone else, have a super great day. Thank you so much to everyone who pre-ordered my book. This was the most pre-orders I ever had. I had 8 pre-orders, paperbacks and ebooks all together. So already emailed. I got it. I saw it on my phone. Thank you, Arinel. I will see everyone later. If you want to follow me, you can find me. My website's down there. All of my links are on there. Everything you need to know about me and all the places to find me are there, and you can find me in a lot of places. Again, thanks so much, guys, and I will see you later.